The past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. Roy T. Bennett. You have the power to be the boss of your own life. I'm your host, Monica Allen. I'm a wife, mom, entrepreneur, best-selling author, lifelong learner, and your biz bestie. I have a love and passion for all things small business. Growing my own company from $700 to over 7 figures annually, my goal is to bring you inspiration, business-focused topics and tips, encouragement, and a community that helps you launch, grow, and scale your business, whether you are a dreamer, a side hustler, or a seasoned entrepreneur. You are listening to the Become Your Own Boss podcast. Today's episode is sparked by a question I love asking my guests. If you could go back and tell your younger self one thing, what would it be? Now, as we look around, we're at a historic crossroads with some doors of opportunity opening wider than ever, right up to the possibility of us electing the first Black female president in the United States. Truthfully, that's got me feeling some extra female boss energy this week. So I've pulled together 7 impactful answers to this question from incredible women across the years of this podcast, including some voices from way back when we started to some of my most recent guests. These reflections are powerful reminders that growth, wisdom, and perspective are earned over time. As entrepreneurs and leaders, it's crucial that we look back to learn, but that we don't linger or wallow in the past. But I am excited. You see, in our personal lives, in business, and yes, even in society, we're witnessing bold examples of resilience, vision, and courage. So come along with me and check out these phenomenal women and what they would tell their younger selves, because there might just be a message here for each of us as we look forward to what's next. If you could go back and tell your younger self something, what would it be?
I actually have the answer for this because I've been thinking about this a lot recently. I'm at the age in life, at the point in my career, and at the point in my business where like all the old folks sayings just start making sense. You're like, oh, that's what, like, give it time. That's what goes around comes around means. I am at the stage in life where I'm seeing the going around coming back around. And I'm so, so grateful that I've always been a good person to people, even when they were not good to me. I'm so glad and grateful that I've always tried my best to be kind and do the right thing. That built up karmatic energy, I guess that's a word, like karma energy. It's coming back around. And I go, oh, I'm glad I didn't screw you when you took advantage of me. I'm glad everything starts coming back around. And if you do the right thing, even when it hurts, even when you're being hurt, taken advantage of, it does come back around. My answer that I would tell myself is just keep doing the right thing. Just, you don't have to understand why. You will never go wrong when you do the right thing.
Oh, I love that. My mom used to tell me that all the time when I was growing up.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's like, oh, that's what they mean. I am looking forward to being a not too fast guy, but like a wise older person. Not too fast. I got a birthday coming up. It's coming real fast, but but yeah, wisdom is a good thing.
It is a great thing. And it's interesting because I watched Blue Zones on Netflix, which is talking about the people living to over 100.
Oh yeah.
And one of their biggest things was the wisdom when the older people live with the younger people, how that wisdom is trickled down versus, sticking the old people in a nursing home and you just got all the wisdom in the nursing home with all the older people who know everything, right? Having it stick around is a positive thing. You just made me think of that.
Yeah. And it's intentional. Like if you think about God's design, you really should honor your elders because they're passing on the roadmap for how to live well. The key is when you're young, you don't listen most of the time.
True.
Experience is the teacher, but the experience does also create the wisdom. So it all comes full circle. But yeah, do the right thing. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Just like, wow, that happened and it felt like it was against me. But 20 years later, it was for me.
Yeah.
I know I'm spitting a lot of like Bible and faith stuff. That's kind of who I am, but it is like God is always working things out for our good. You know, it's always going to work out for your good if you do the right thing.
Don't sweat the small stuff. I used to sweat the small stuff. Anything that wasn't going just perfect, I said I just had anxiety. Because it was out of my control. I would be better at technology if I could. That I would do. But really, truly, as you get older, and I'm not afraid, I'm 56 tomorrow.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Is when I look back and think of the things that would stress me out. And then now, as you get older and you start each year, you look at life differently because you start seeing things differently. And when I think back to the stuff that used to get me crazy, now I laugh at it because I'm like, really? Elise, that made you crazy? And you can't help yourself because we all go through different phases of life and everything.
Yes.
But really, truly, when you feel like everything's caving in or it's just a really bad day, know that tomorrow's another day. And I actually look forward to waking up every day. Listen, I've been in this business a long time. And if I didn't like it, I wouldn't be doing it. And I've had my days and my challenges here. But if you can wake up every day excited for the day, then that's success. And back then, I didn't know how to do all that. I didn't know. I knew I loved what I was doing. I knew I wanted to build this jewelry brand, but I didn't know how to wake up and go, not be like, oh. Now I know how to wake up, and I like thinking about you today. I was really excited about this, even though it was late. But yes, I was very excited. I'll never get over that, just by the way. But I don't want to obsess. Don't sweat the small stuff. But
don't sweat the small stuff.
Don't sweat the small stuff. But yeah, it's a really good thing when you can wake up and feel excited for the day.
There's so many things. I just wrote a blog post, which I haven't posted yet, but it's all about what I wish my 20-year-old self knew. It's sort of from a health and wellness perspective. I would also say as what I would tell my younger self, just keep going. Just keep going. I think it's so important that you don't give up on yourself and you look at, and it's really hard in those times where you're failing. And I always say, like, when we were down as low as we could possibly go, those were the times I learned the most in my business. But what I think is really hard is recognizing that in that moment. And I would say, look at every day as an opportunity to learn something new, because there's always a lesson to be learned. And I am very much and I learned this the hard way too, like a silver lining kind of person, but I wasn't always a silver lining kind of person. I would get down on myself, like, I'm failing, I'm not succeeding. Why am I not making the money that I want to be making? Look at her, she's making that money. That's another one. I would tell myself, like, stay on your mat. Don't worry about what someone else is doing. Only worry about what they're doing for inspo, right? Like, let them inspire you to do more, to be better, as opposed to saying those negative things to yourself. And one of the things I try to teach my own kids when it comes to, that story we tell ourselves is, you could tell yourself a great story, or you could tell yourself a really terrible story. Whatever story that is that you tell yourself is how you're going to feel about yourself. So be careful of the story that you're telling yourself. I say it to my kids. I say it to their friends. Stop saying that to yourself. Switch your narrative, right? Be your best friend and get rid of the bitch that's sitting on your shoulder, because she's not going to help you.
Wow. I would tell my younger self that it gets easier to do this work. Just don't be so hard on yourself. I used to wake up in the morning stressed with all of my clients stressed on me. People don't often realize that attorneys, we fix everybody's problems, which means they come lay them in our laps. Imagine having your own problems and then you've got maybe 100 other people's problems in your lap, right? They may have taken 50 years to mess this up. They want you to fix it by 2:30. I was really hard on myself for a long time of just, I got to make sure this person is okay. And I got to make sure. And it was just so much stress that I internalized instead of managing things the way that I've learned to manage them now, where I limit the number of people that I allow to lay their stress on me. And so it gives me grace to be able to move through their problems and solve them, but kind of more one at a time and with more care and compassion than just putting out fires. So I would have just to give yourself some grace. It gets better. You just got to figure out how to balance it.
Marry the right person. Right. So I got divorced during COVID. And so having the right partner to help you. I mean, we had a good marriage and I love my children and all, but like, I think who you're partnered with is really important for your professional or not, right? You can choose one way or the other, but like seeing thinking about these things as blending together and understanding that, your professional destiny is going to be connected to how your personal life is going and how that person supports you and partners with you, and who stays at home or who supports the family and what kind of flexibility there is. And all of those things are deeply intertwined, and kind of understanding and making sure you're having those conversations with your partner and you find the person that matches what you have in mind or can imagine yourself doing is really important. I think I did not have, it worked out fine for me. I think young me did not really consciously make that decision, right? I wasn't like, hey, is this, what do I want to do professionally? And how many kids do I want to have? And who's going to take care of the kids and for how long? And, what do I want my outside of my professional life to look like? And I don't know. I just never really thought all that through. I was just like, ooh, let's fall in love and have babies. But those things are all one thing, right? I mean, I would definitely tell my young self that, but young Robin would not have listened.
Right. Of course not. It's funny though, because Ethan and I literally just talked about this yesterday. We went to a conference last week and we were driving back from Florida yesterday. And I told him, I said, it's so important to pick the right spouse or partner, because if you don't have the right person, you could just be bumping heads or like going in opposite directions. And it's not to say you have to have the exact same interests, but I think that word support, being supportive, is the key. And we just literally had that conversation yesterday. And for you to bring that up, it's just like, yes. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It's definitely what I would tell my children. I'm very happy that my boys have this very strange view of the world, having had their mom be very professionally minded and, the primary breadwinner for the family all these years. And I think I'm very curious to see what their personal relationships look like and what they expect from their spouses at some point in time, given sort of how they've been raised. I hopefully they will have learned some lessons from mom, but I don't know, the kids, they could go either way.
Honestly, I know what I would tell myself because I started so early. My mother was a very ambitious person, and being an immigrant, first generation, like I moved here from Russia in 1980. So I had to learn English and like everything else, right? Obviously your parents want more for you, but I was very fortunate. By the time I was 23, I was living in Europe. I was an international educator because I'd done so much work as a skin specialist because my mother was a dermatologist and I had my aesthetics degree. Anyway, I did everything very early. Okay. So even at 14, I was the youngest government licensed esthetician. We broke the boundaries for it, which helped so many other women achieve a professional career, even if they dropped out of school, for example. But like I'd done so much. By the time I was 23, I could have published my first book. I could have published 5 books by the time I was 27. But of course, back then, publishing books and self-publishing was not a thing. And it was like, you know what? I just held myself back and I said, no, you're not old enough. The advice I would give myself is publish early. Start it's not too early and it's never too late. Like that limitation would have been one I would have loved to have dissolved to say, publish now. Your voice deserves to be heard. What you have to say matters. You're not too young. Just do it now.
Right. Wow. That's really good. And that's some great advice for all of the young people now, because I think so many times we want to put limits on ourselves and box ourselves in which I think is what it has been so great about social media. I know there's lots of negative to it as well,
Right.
but the positive aspects of that is that so many young people see opportunities of being an influencer, or I know my daughter's created her own YouTube channel and has done decent for a 12-year-old.
That's amazing.
Yeah, those things, and not being limited by your age. I love that.
Yeah. And you know what? It's never too early or too late to be a good example. Never. Everybody needs a good example at every stage of our lives, because we often see ourselves better when we are looking and listening to others.
I think one thing that I've found myself saying over the years is your best is still unwritten. And to me, that covers a multitude of things. When you think of just your life as a whole, you really want to envision your life as your own book. You are the author of your book. You can decide what type of book you have. Is it a mystery? Is it an adventure? Is there a plot twist? You can decide what happens, and your prior chapters really don't determine how your book is going to go moving forward, and it doesn't determine the ending. You're still in control. You can always decide to change, you can always decide to do something different. And I think that's true for entrepreneurs and just people in general who are sitting on the sideline of their life, not doing what they are called to do or fulfilling their purpose because they are just stuck beating themselves up over their past or their prior mistakes or their shortcomings. You know, there aren't really mistakes, they're just lessons. And when you embrace the fact that I'm learning and this was a lesson and a mistake isn't forever, it really gives you freedom to live your life and to change your life and to customize your life for you. So those would be my last words. Your best is still unwritten because it's always a dot, 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 dot.
I hope you enjoyed these incredible insights from some inspiring boss ladies. It's exciting to see women starting and running businesses at an unprecedented rate. Did you know that 42% of all U.S. businesses are owned by women? And women-owned businesses have grown by an impressive 114% over the last 2 decades. I've linked an article by Louisa Zoe in the show notes with more fascinating facts about women in business. If you want to hear the full interviews of each of these amazing women, I've listed these episodes in the show notes, but they are featured in this order: Shawnee Godwin in episode 179, Elise Rosenstock in 119, Haley Foster, episode 127, Dorna Taylor in episode 126, Robin Gregg in 131, Tanya Trinova in 148, and Deidre Knight Bembry in episode 16. I do really recommend you go back and check out the full episodes because they really share some great wisdom throughout their entire business and entrepreneurial career. And to my fellas out there who's listening to this podcast, this one's for you too. I will definitely have to share some responses to the same question from some of my male guests in the future. But again, I'm just really feeling the female boss energy this week, and I hope it carries right into the new year. Thank you for tuning in today. I am so grateful for you. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, and share it with someone who could use these nuggets of wisdom. And remember, now is the time. Now is the time to level up, leave a legacy, and become your own boss.